All right, welcome back, folks, to another Let's Play video here playing Eurofront, and we will continue on this here campaign. We are now in March 1943. Likely going to be, I imagine, a pretty uneventful turn just because of the mud. We will see. You never really know to roll the dice, but based off of what happened on the last turn, the Soviets actually pulled back strategically, or we will say operationally. I would say operationally. And effectively, the German army, I think we all can pretty much come to the consensus that this German counteroffensive succeeded when they pushed the Red Army out of Kursk. Now, of course, there's a lot of factors to take into consideration. Yes, the German army did lose a lot of units, but I think one thing that I am underestimating in this game is that, I'm playing this game with hindsight 2020. I've played, Operation Barbarossa with multiple playthroughs, and I kind of have a somewhat of a better sense, at least my impression after playing the game is that I have somewhat of a better sense as to how to manage the Eastern Front, because the Eastern Front was very different operationally compared to the other campaigns that the Wehrmacht fought in World War II. And I think the short answer, the most obvious reason for why that's the case is the scale, it's the territory. You can look at the size of Poland over here. You can look at the size of France and the Low Countries. Even looking at the Balkans, right? I think it was Operation Merida, where the Wehrmacht invaded Yugoslavia and Greece. There was, I think, several operations. I mean, if you look at just the scale, yes, Europe is large, but when you look at the Eastern Front, it's just a much wider front. And I think as far as surface area goes, I mean, the operations over here are just a lot more vast. So from a logistical standpoint, the Wehrmacht, specifically the German army, right, had a lot of greater difficulty concentrating their firepower along this front. And so that was something that I think, from what I've understood, a lot of the German field commanders had difficulty kind of wrapping their minds around, was because, this time around, they couldn't just win a set piece battle taking a small town or a city and then expect the fighting to be over. In fact, I would argue that this Eastern Front campaign incorporated a lot more logistics, simply because, it wasn't just how many battles you were winning. It was also like, how much could you sustain your offensive momentum. And so Operation Barbarossa was that period where we see a big German push, but I don't think the German high command really understood how to adapt to this war, because they were fighting on a bigger scale than what they were used to. On the other hand, you have the Soviet Stavka, the Soviet high command, and they had a bit more experience fighting on a bigger scale. Their ability to fight well on the smaller scale was kind of their weakness. There's a lot of debate in that, but their tactics, the stereotype is that their tactics weren't nearly as good as other formations, and there's actually a lot of evidence to support that. But when it came to a bigger picture understanding of not just the war, but of fighting on multiple fronts, I would make the argument that Stavka had a clear sense of that. And I think a lot of that has to do with the nature of Russia itself, because unlike Germany or unlike, other nations in Europe, Russia is a multi-continental nation. As far as the amount of territory that they control, I don't know about population size or economy or industry, but when it came to just looking at the map, they had a lot more territory. And so I believe it was during the Russian Civil War, right? It was in that transitionary period when the Red Army was essentially born. There was a civil war between the Red Army and the White Army in Russia. That's where they started to learn a lot about, how to fight these more long drawn out logistical campaigns. And it wasn't just that. I mean, the Crimean War that happened, I have to actually know exactly when it happened. I'm not really sure, but I kind of want to find out now. Oops, excuse me. That's another video. But let's actually look at that. I'm curious to know the Crimean War. When did it actually happen? Hold on. Very important war, and I just don't want to ignore that. Okay, it happened in 1856. This was a big moment where I know that Tsar Russia kind of started to lose a bit of its prestige as the fighting went on. There would be other wars, but the Crimean War was one of those one of those conflicts that Russia lost, kind of like in its home territory at the time, right? I mean, compare Crimea to where, Moscow is to say where London is, right? I mean, the British were, way over here and they still were able to win the battle. And so the point I'm trying to make is that the Red Army had more experience with transferring formations across these long distances. It's arguably why they had a better rail infrastructure than possibly the Wehrmacht in World War II. And so that's just all really fascinating to me. And I think this game kind of shows that. I've come to learn that when playing this game, it's not about how good your panzer divisions are. In fact, there's technically no panzer divisions on the map. It's more so as to how well you actually place your armies along these relatively large hexes that are about 100 kilometers in diameter. Wow. Yeah, 100 kilometers in diameter, give or take. So with that said, we're going to continue playing on this game, but my invasion, in this war game scenario, this invasion of the Soviet Union has been basically trying to ensure the Wehrmacht wouldn't suffer from any of those larger scale logistical shortcomings. And the short answer was I tried to stuff as much manpower as I could on the Eastern Front. And so that Soviet winter offensive was successful. But the German army actually had enough of a reserve to kind of fill in the gap. I'm pretty sure historically they would have not had sufficient reserves. I mean, take for example the Battle of Stalingrad. They had it would have been the equivalent of one corps or one Romanian army protecting one hex, right? You may have had a Romanian unit here, Italian unit there, or maybe the Italian would have been near Rostov, a Hungarian army would have been nearby. But the point I'm trying to make is that the actual density of forces that they had was insufficient to stop a Soviet breakthrough. Likewise, in this game, we still, even though we stacked up 3 units in a single hex, probably the equivalent of about, I would guess around the order of about 200,000 troops, was still insufficient to stop the Soviet breakthrough, but we still were able to deploy other ones that eventually put enough pressure to incentivize the Red Army to pull back. So all this is fascinating. This is obviously a qualitative description of this. I really hope some point in the future, folks, that I'm able to, show you all a more interesting quantified model. But science is hard, folks. That's all I can tell you. So let's go ahead and just play this game. Let's have fun. Let's enjoy the present while we're at it, and not get too caught up with thinking about the future. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start the file. And we're going to go ahead and, roll for weather, do the production, all that good stuff, and see what happens. But I imagine this is going to go by pretty fast, given how there's going to be a lot of mud on all the fronts. So there's my intro. Let's go ahead and focus on the production. I'll start with the Axis because pretty sure we're presuming that if there is a winter dice roll on the Eastern Front, the Soviets will have the initiative. While on the Western Front, Mediterranean Front, the Allies already have that initiative. Okay, so let's look at that. Let's actually get into the numbers now. Western Front Axis production is at 31. Mediterranean Front production is at 25. 31, 25. And what do I want to build up? I actually decided to pass on using OKW on the last turn, and I think that's good, simply because, logistically good, because now we can actually focus on building up these other HQs. I think my strategy right now, and this is something that the German High Command really kind of fell short on, was grand strategy. Take, for example, the Battle of France. They invade France. They were completely unprepared for Operation Sea Lion, right? I think Adolf Hitler actually did have a lot of strategic insight, but he had difficulty either convincing his general staff, and then there was kind of all these rivalry and all this infighting within the German High Command, which was very different than, say, the case of Stavka, in which Stalin, if he didn't like you, you would be sent off to a train in Siberia. That's probably your best case scenario. So Stalin and the communist regime had a lot more, I would argue, had a lot more control over influencing their generals than the German High Command seemed to have had. There was different debates as to like the theory of war, different branches that were kind of competing. I know that the Luftwaffe consumed a lot of resources in World War II for the the Third Reich's industrial military complex. Maybe those resources could have been better distributed. There's also a whole nother can of worms when it comes to the Third Reich's industries, and it's very confusing. But yeah, long story short, there was Germany was a very diverse. Believe it or not, it was a very diverse culture and community. And so there was a lot of different like competing philosophies, even during the war, even under the Nazi regime, and so on. And so you kind of saw that. I think that's part of the reason why you kind of have like a lack of standardization for a lot of their equipment, which eventually interrupted their ability to mass produce enough weapons for the war. And eventually, the Allies just kind of beat them with the numbers game, and they were able to kind of more or less match the Germans with the quality as well by the end of the war, pretty much. So, anyways, I digress. World War II is a very fascinating, very fascinating subject, as I'm sure the audience is very well aware. But it's still a mystery on so many levels, or at least it's a mystery to me, because I haven't read every World War II book. There's a lot of different subfields and subcategories, but it really does feel like a big old rabbit hole of information. So anyways, let's go ahead and do the production and just simply focus on this quote unquote simple war game, right? I mean, it's more simple compared to, it's definitely more simple compared to like Case Blue, some of these other war games that have like so many blocks on the board, but it's way more complex, I would argue, than say a game like Axis and Allies, right? So it's somewhere in the middle there, and it's hard to say, does this make the game more valuable? Does it make it less valuable? It's hard to say. My general impression is that it's just at the level to satisfy anyone who's like really into World War II. I mean, if you're at that point in your journey of studying World War II history where like you now kind of like know like every single gun that was used in the conflict, or all these different variants of vehicles, this may be more for you. In fact, this game is probably more, I think, focuses more on the nuance of strategy more so than the tactics. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? Just given the scale of the game itself. But one question I still don't understand, I don't know how the developers did this, but like, how did they figure out these numbers? Why is it that the Ruhr is 16, but Berlin is only 10? Like how did they quantify this? Surely these folk who made this game, they must have read a lot of World War II books. I think that's the only explanation I have. I mean, they must have read easily like on the order of like 30, 40 just World War II books simply focusing on the European theater. I mean, something like that in order to have a game that at the very least feels to be very very in tune with just the pacing and the rhythm and the overall like momentum and tempo of this conflict. So I find that very fascinating, and all the mechanics and so on. So anyways, production. I think I'm going to start trying to build OBW with the goal of having it at full strength. I think ideally for the summer of 1943, we have this unit at full strength, or at the very least at a level of 2. If it's at a level 2, maybe I don't need to leave Army Group E here anymore. Maybe I can deploy to, say, southern France, right? I also have an incentive to redeploy Army Group C. I don't know where to put it. We have an Army Group G here, but it's only comprised of 1 Panzer Corps, but it should be enough just to repulse an Allied landing, or at least keep them on their toes. But likewise, other areas, I don't know where else to prioritize. I'm pretty sure one of these smaller army groups would have been deployed to Greece, and right now we don't have anything in Greece. Maybe that's what we have to do. So anyways, not to lose track of my production builds, I've built up these 2. That's 20 production points. That's going to leave me with only now 11, not a whole lot to build up. I think with that 11, I think, it's clear to me that I want to build up a militia unit. Let's go ahead and build up this guy up here. That's 1 build. That's 3 production points. That leaves me with 8 left. And I think with that 8, let's focus on the infantry. I'm actually starting to feel pretty confident about the German infantry on the west. Most of them are being built up to full strength by now, and that is good news. good news indeed. In fact, maybe I should build up this Panzer Corps, or maybe I should build up Italian units. Maybe the Italian units could be beefed up a bit, just in case the Allies pull off any sneaky maneuver. Again, it's hard to say. What about as far as reinforcements? Ideally, this 8 would have probably been best used to spend on the SS Panzer Corps, but I forgot to deploy it on the last game, so that was a bit of an oof. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to go ahead and put this new Army Group B, I'm going to put it in Yugoslavia, just in case the Allies have anything playing out over here. That's what I failed to do with like the situation here in Tunisia. I failed to have a unit in Sicily that could have easily deployed and react quickly. So I want to have a unit nearby to preemptively just reinforce Greece if necessary. Rome is protected, so that's good. This Army Group C will probably deploy to southern France. I'm pretty sure that's the best place to put that. And that pretty much covers all the major sectors. I mean, Norway could be beefed up, but I'm right now feeling pretty okay, pretty confident about that setup. I'm not too worried about Norway, which may be words that I end up, and I may have just bit my tongue there, as the saying goes. So, let's figure out what to do. I have 8 more to build, and the question is where do I want to build it? Where do I want to build it? In fact, maybe I even just leave the SS Corps in Rome. Wouldn't that be interesting if I left this SS Panzer Corps in Rome? Likewise, I could also try to deploy it to the Eastern Front, and I don't know what the strategy is right now for the Wehrmacht on the Eastern Front, because it's kind of like a strategic stalemate for all sakes and purposes. I mean, we can hold off, but clearly the Red Army, just from all these units that are stacked up over here, it's quite clear that these units are going to be very difficult to counter, or push back. The Soviets have a very strong defensive setup towards the defense of Baku, so that makes good sense. But then likewise, I mean, here in the Central Front, maybe the Red Army doesn't have enough troops in the center. Maybe we try to make a push on Moscow in 1943. I don't know what the chances of success are for the Wehrmacht. Chances are we will probably get very close to taking it, but we probably won't get close enough. The Soviets have enough strategic flexibility to pretty much establish a really powerful defense, not everywhere along the front, but concentrate in some places. And so clearly Moscow, the Moscow district, would be an area that they could easily defend. So that's that. Voronezh. I mean, what other targets actually seem to be actually like targets worth attacking? It's hard to say. I mean, I think Baku, Grozny, perhaps Stalingrad seem to be like the only other targets besides Moscow that are clear. So in other words, we don't really have any real advantage of surprise right now, I think, for the year of 1943 if we decide to go on the offensive with the Wehrmacht, which then tells me that the incentive I have right now is maybe just to focus on the Western Front and just deny the Allies from gaining any more advantages in the West while we do well on the East. In fact, I mean, if you zoom out far enough, maybe this entire conflict is just going to be a stalemate by the time the game will end automatically in 1945. And then I guess presumably a nuclear bomb is dropped on Berlin or something like that. So because the Allied alliance did have a Germany first as their strategic priority. So with all that said, where do we want to deploy these units? Let's just go ahead and put this SS Panzer Corps in Paris, and then we have another Panzer Corps, but I don't think I actually want to deploy it to the west. I'd rather deploy it to the east if I can, and save it for a 1943 campaign. In fact, my original plan was to deploy all the Panzer armies to the east, and then see if that's enough firepower to perhaps dislodge the Soviets, maybe make a push on Baku, maybe get Turkey in the war. That would definitely make things pretty interesting. So we'll see. I mean, unfortunately, if we lose North Africa, the whole fighting sort of comes to an end in the Mediterranean front. So that's the only limit that we have, I would say. So I don't know. I wish I could tell you like exactly what my plan of action is, but I think I'm just gonna keep this I'm just tempted to keep this SS Panzer Corps just like, you know, I don't want to deploy it just yet because I'm pretty sure I'll have a faster way of deploying it. It'll be probably more efficient if I deploy it once I know where the Allies are actually making their move. So that's that. I still have 8 production points left, and I think probably the wisest build probably be to build up this this Panzer Corps here, right? Or maybe I should build up this Italian unit. You know, give the Italians a little bit of support. That's another option. We definitely need to like start like protecting all these ports, right? And I think the best units for that are probably going to be the militia. But they're all kind of very under strength right now. So the main unit is definitely OKW in its ability to just deploy as many units as we can all along the front, you know, and try to occupy as many ports as we can. So it's quite clear that the Axis just were not prepared for this situation in the war, because the fact that we only have militia units to protect, I guess technically they weren't militia units, but they're really just, according to this game, they're just like low tier units. They're probably just, the Germany was really scarce on manpower, and so I guess they're like, selecting personnel perhaps that would have originally not been qualified to serve, but now are. So I'm not sure what's going on with these units. They are not Volkssturm, because Volkssturm did enter the war like until 1944. So these are not Volkssturm, but they are, according to this game, some sort of militia formation. So that's that. Let's go ahead and just fortify Naples, because we don't want to lose Naples. And so I'm going to beefing up that a little bit. And then, yeah, just build up this Italian unit here. And that seems pretty reasonable. Okay, so that is that. I gave the Italians a little bit of support for a change. But it's, obviously that may have been just wasted production points, given how, the Italians may surrender. They're just too demoralized. They might just surrender too quickly. So that's that too. I'm actually going to change this. Yeah, no, that seems okay. And then I guess the Allies could be landing in Sicily, but I think we have a relatively good defense. I'm actually going to give it over here, give this Italian unit here in Sardinia that boost. Or maybe, yeah, those are the two areas that the Allies are likely to invade, right? Because they control this Tyrrhenian Sea. We can do Mediterranean front production, and we'll roll the 5 dice. We get 11 plus 8, or plus 7, that's 18. And with that 18, what do we want to build up? I say we keep building up, definitely build up the Africa Corps, this unit here. That's 10. That leaves me with only 8 left. And I guess let's just go ahead and build up this unit. So our HQs are at full strength in North Africa, which is pretty cool to see. So the Axis have, as far as logistics go, they're in pretty good shape right now. Now we still have 3 more production points left over. I think I'm just going to toss them out on this turn. Or you know what I might do? I think I'm going to pass on the Axis production on this turn. I don't think the Allies are going to, I feel pretty confident that they're not going to make a move on Tripoli. And then next turn, hopefully with a little bit more production, I can actually build up these other Axis units. So that's, we're going to save our production actually on the Mediterranean front. So let's grab our Mediterranean front icon here, and I'll put it to transfer it to April, since now the month is March. We do have clear weather on the Western front. That's something to be aware of. And then we're just going to make this 18. So that should be pretty good. And then how are we doing on the Western front? I mean, the Western front is okay. Maybe we could use that Panzer Corps, that SS Panzer Corps after all, if the Allies try to land. I have a feeling that they're not. I mean, I'm looking at the ports. London's got 2 units. They got a bunch of units in Bristol, but our intelligence, can tell, there's no real buildup there. So it really goes to show you that when you're playing against another opponent, you really have the ability to toy around with the fog of war element. It's subtle, but it's just enough to deceive the enemy. Right now, the British have done a pretty poor job, and when I say British, I really mean me playing as the Allies. Have done a such a great job at trying to deceive the Wehrmacht, because clearly we don't have a lot of units stacked up there. So that's that. Eastern Front production is going to be pretty strong. It's going to be at 82 still. And we're going to just go ahead and keep building up our formations and just focus on manpower. So I'm building up OKH. That's 10 production points. That leaves me with 72. Let's go ahead and build up our infantry here. And that German counterattack was pretty well done. I mean, it was good dice rolls. We didn't suffer many losses. It could have been very different. So building up some infantry. So that was 3 infantry builds. That's 12 that I've spent. So from 72 down to 60, right? Right. So I have 60 left on the Eastern Front. Still plenty. And then I'm going to build up these other units over here. Just basically rebuild the army that was destroyed, that we had lost. Basically rebuild it up again. So, build up these guys. That's another 2 infantry. Build up a 3rd infantry, and then build up this Panzer Corps, which is twice the cost. So that's another 20 production points I just spent. So now we're down to 40 on the Eastern Front. And what to spend? Let's go ahead and build up this HQ. Now we're down to 30. And as before, our units are looking pretty strong. Again, pretty much all the German units are at full strength. Very few are under strength. So that's impressive. I think with the remaining 30, I think I'm going to go ahead and build up, give the Mannerheim HQ maybe another build. I think that's what I want to do. Build up this Dido HQ. That leaves me now with 20 production points. And then with the remaining 20, what more can we build? I think this is a good time to make a move on Sevastopol if we can. So let's see. With the remaining 20, I can build up more Panzer Corps. So that's another one and another one over here. And then I only have 4 more left to build up. And I couldn't even tell you with 4 production points what I need to build up. It's not clear to me. Again, the German army has really built up all of its units once more on the Eastern Front. So that's that. I could just build up this Romanian unit, Hungarian unit, but these units are pinned, they're restricted until we take Sevastopol. So I don't really have much of an incentive there. And then these Finnish units I could build up, but maybe I build up this Finnish unit here in Leningrad and just kind of complete the defense of Leningrad there. 2 units in Leningrad, I feel pretty confident that they're going to be able to sustain any Soviet assault in the future. So that's that. Pretty straightforward Axis production. I guess our units on the Western Front are still a little under strength, but I think, they kind of are. I mean, these fortresses are still vulnerable. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes, but I think so far so good. So there's that. We'll switch now over to the Soviets and the Allies, and then do their production, and then we'll go ahead and start the actual movement and operational phases and all that good stuff. Not operational phases, movement phases, command phases. And so I think right now we're doing a Mediterranean first strategy for the Allies. But with that said, I don't think we should ignore the possibility of trying to invade from the UK or from Great Britain at the time. But the only problem is that, we're not going to get any more HQs until later on. So 1943 is very limited. I mean, April, right, we're not gaining much. So Allied production, let's see. On the Western Front, it is, what is it? 20, I think it's 20, what is that? Not 25, 28, right? And so, yeah, let's just build up these HQs, build up this one here. And then I have 18 left. Yeah, with 18 left, there's not a whole lot. I may even give the Soviets a bit more production. Yeah, let's just transfer over 10 to the Soviets. I think the Soviets could use it. And then we'll do a production transfer there. Transfer to the Soviets. Oh, actually, I didn't need to move that. Grab this icon here, and then we will put it here for April. And then what's the other thing I want to do? So we have 8 left now. Let's just build up these infantry. Now, as far as the dead pile for the Allies, you know, we still have two lost units, but I feel like these units need to be built up in the Mediterranean front. Or maybe not. Maybe we just work with what we have. I think if I want to focus more on the Mediterranean front, try to build up more units. So let's do the Mediterranean front production rolls. We have 35 for the Allies, the Mediterranean front. So let's do that. Decent dice rolls here. We've got 13 plus another 12. So that's 25. This time we have no maintenance. Oh, no, we do. We actually have one more maintenance. Yeah, so the freaking desert maintenance is really, even though we took Tunisia, man, the maintenance costs, the desert maintenance costs are kind of kicking our ass right now. So I only have 20 left. I'm going to build up that HQ there. And then build up this HQ here. Like, that's nothing. You know, so I think logistically the Allies are really in a conundrum right now. You know, unless you know, it's gonna be a challenge to take Libya, but we should try to make a move at some point, sooner rather than later. So it's still gonna take time. The Allies just have a lot of logistical challenges right now. I would say that's their number one problem, is the logistics. Now on the Eastern Front, we've got 61 production points for the Soviets. The Soviets are not doing all too great either from a production standpoint, because I think the main difference was this loss in Murmansk, which is really beginning to add up. And I've really started to feel it now, given that you know, the Soviets just haven't been able to build up in many units, and we've just been sustaining some pretty notable losses. Now, chances are we're still going to have the initiative, so I think, you know, we'll go ahead and build up our 2 HQs, Western HQ and Stavka. Those are kind of normal builds. We've got some units here that we could use to attack. I think we should try to attack. The only problem is that we can only send, well, actually we could send more. We could send the 3rd unit that way. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge overall. And then preemptively, you know, German army has already kind of pulled back from this area here, because we did have pretty nice buildup of formations here. But, like, you know, we've got the shock unit here. It's out of range, right? So I think the Soviets should, I've spent already 20 production points. That leaves me with 41. Let's just focus on building up our army. Let's just make that the priority. And try to, like, clear out this entire dead pile of Soviet formations. That's really what I want to see, so that we can do really well for the summer of 1943 for the Soviets. So just start building up units. So, you know, and our units are going to be ever more expensive as time moves forward. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So that's 3 right there, plus another armored unit. That's another 4, so we spent 7. So now we're left with 34 production points. Build up this cavalry. Now we're down to 31. Put up this infantry. Make sure all these infantry are at full strength. So now that's I spent 6 there. That leaves me now with 25. And now, with the remaining 25 that we've got, try to build up, at least build up our infantry again. Although I don't think our infantry are going to really be good enough to go toe to toe with the Wehrmacht. So there's an incentive to, not just focus on the infantry, but also focus on these other mech units and so on. With 25 production points, right? Let's see here. These units, they're looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and build up the shock army here. So now it leaves me with 22. I think with those 22, I'm going to build up this armored unit, this armored unit. That's 8 apiece. So that's going to be 16. And that only leaves me with 6 left. Like, man. So no, we're going to hold off on the armor for now because they're just way too pricey. These infantry are 4 apiece, so that's 12. And then, do we have any armor over here? No, right? So yeah, we just spent 12. Cancel the shock build. We're going to actually build this guy over here. So we have another 12 left. We got to figure out, I mean, I could build up 3 more ground units, 3 more infantry, but I kind of want to try to focus more on armor if I can. I think we're just going to build up these 2 mech groups and maybe put them over here. So we've got 3 mech formations here, 2 infantry, and 1 cavalry and 1 armor. So still more cost effective than the Wehrmacht, but I just want to have like a kind of a mobile group there if possible. Maybe we'll put another mech group up here instead. Yeah, so it's a tough situation for the Soviets. Maybe our offensive was a little too preemptive, and we're kind of still trying to just gain an advantage over the Wehrmacht pretty much. So that's that. That's the Allied production. Pretty uneventful. Well, like I said before, I kind of presumed it would have been pretty uneventful. I don't think any diplomatic events, although we could do diplomatic events for the Axis to get Iraq in the war and Syria in the war. It could slow down the Allies. I'm going to hold off for now. Maybe do it at a later stage in the war. To keep the Allies off guard. That's the idea. That is the idea. So yeah, not many options for the Red Army, I'll tell you now. Which is really unfortunate to say. But that just seems to be the case right now. I'm pretty sure by this stage in the war, they also... No, not yet. Leningrad was still under siege, I'm pretty sure. But that's it. So I think we'll start the turn. And we'll see how the weather goes. But I'm pretty sure these next few months, this turn and the next turn are going to be pretty slow because of the mud. So we'll start with Eastern Front mud roll. It is snow. But I think we're going to pass for the Soviets on this turn, even though we have snow. Maybe I could deploy a few formations here and there, but there's no real need, not yet at least. Maybe on the next turn we will have to. You know what? I just realized we probably should have attacked Kutaisi with the Soviets. I realized we probably should have made an attack there. I still can technically. You know what? Let's just go ahead and do that. Even though this HQ is under strength, it's only level 1. I want to at least attempt to make an attack. I just don't want to make an attack that fails. That's the only problem that I'm kind of concerned about. So actually, what I'm actually going to do... No, we'll hold off for the Red Army for now. We're going to pass on this turn. We can roll for the storm. No storms on the Eastern Front. Western Front roll. There is no roll for weather. The weather is actually going to be clear in the Western Front. So that's taken care of. We don't have to roll for any storm tables. So it's good weather in the west. The only problem is that the Allies are just dealing with massive logistical shortcomings. And that's the only real kind of limitation that they have right now. Yeah, so I'm going to pass. I think I'm going to pass. Maybe we'll just do one little move here. Not the most impressive move, of course. Actually, you know what I should do? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to activate that Mediterranean Front HQ. And then what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to transfer this amphibious unit. We're going to transfer it out of North Africa because of the maintenance costs are just way too cumbersome. Let's just put it over here. We'll do that. That seems to be reasonable. Okay, so that's that. And then we're going to pass for the Allies. Let's switch over to the Axis. And I think the Axis, there is an incentive to activate OKW and just start getting units in better positions. So for example, let's get this Army Group C. Guess I'll put it in Lyon. And then we'll get other units here. Moving these units by rail. Just making sure that the southern flank is relatively safe against some sort of potential Allied invasion. So that was what, three supreme moves that I did. What else can we do? I still have a few more. Let's get this unit, this HQ unit, or no, our militia unit rather. And let's just make sure it's protecting all of Denmark. So that's another move. I got 2 more moves left. Where do I want to put them? Let's get this unit here. Militia unit. Let's move it to Livorno. That's one move there. And then I think that's going to complete our setup. I'm actually going to cancel this HQ move. I'm going to leave it there. And then I probably want to move it to Rome itself. So yeah, we did 1, 2, what was it? 3, 4. Pretty sure I did more than that. I already lost track of my moves. Oh my goodness. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I got a few more. One, 2, 3. I did 4. How about 5? And then I got one more move, right? One more move, and the only question is, what move would we want that to be? This is Army Group C, right? One more move, and I do not know what to do. You know what, I'm going to cancel this move here. I'm actually going to move this guy to somewhere in Italy. 1, 2. I mean, clearly we can establish a pretty good defense of the Italian boot. We got to protect this flank, these flanks that were pretty vulnerable. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe we gotta just protect southern France. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Maybe that's the best setup overall. It's not great because, you know, our defenses are very static, but it's better than nothing. 1, 2. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excuse me. 1, 2. I really don't like to play these militia units in such forward positions. I'd rather have them kind of as like a rear guard defense of some kind, if I can, or just have them defend in places that I know the allies are guaranteed to attack in. Let's get this guy in right here, right there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Still one more move. It's gonna meet this unit, I guess, here. Yeah, our defenses are just so incomplete. It's pretty ridiculous. It's quite ridiculous. Definitely tough call to make. Any other strategic moves I would want to do? If there are any, I can't tell you what they need to be right now. Couldn't tell you what they need to be. Yeah. I think what I'll do is probably transfer over another infantry army unit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, it's too far away, right? Let's get this other unit in northern France or western France. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll put it right there. Okay, that's it for the Western Front. Before I give myself a friggin' headache trying to figure it out. Eastern Front. I mean, our production is strong on the Eastern Front. And so, you know, since the Soviets decided not to attack, right, this probably could be a good opportunity to try to reinforce this little position. Maybe there's still a chance that we can make a big push on the Batumi area, or we try to fall back. Don't know. I think it's clear to me that our main target should be right now Sevastopol. So, if that really is our main goal, let's try to get some units moving over there. Kind of want to just deploy all these new formations I have forward, including this fortress unit. I don't know where I would want to put the fortress unit, but I'm pretty sure putting it near Kursk would be a good spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's not even in range yet. So let's get it moving forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's one move. 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are two moves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10. Yeah, we're dealing with some pretty serious logistical problems right now. I'll tell you that much. So, anyways, that was 3 strategic moves. We can do a few more. Let's do, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Actually, yeah, 7, 8. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I kind of want to send them more to the south. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll put them there. So that's already 5 strategic moves that I've done, right? That only leaves me with 1 more left. The only question is, what move would that be? I mean, it's pretty clear that we're gonna fall back from here, right? Do I decide to abandon Batumi altogether? Should I try to do that right now? I mean, we worked so hard to take Batumi. It would be a dang shame if we lost it. I think it is a tough call to make, I'll tell you now. Oh, okay. You know what? I know what move I can do. Let's move one of these Finnish units. Let's start trying to move it to the north. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, because we want to definitely like protect Murmansk, right? So let's move one of these Finnish troops. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this distance is 5, so that's 9. Okay, so I think I did my 6 moves, right? Yeah. I'm also gonna go ahead and activate. I guess we'll wait a little longer before we do any other moves. Okay, so that's it for OKW. We're just pretty much deploying reinforcements to the front on both west and east. So the Axis have plenty of moves to do. We'll do the next fortnight, and we'll roll the weather. And this is Eastern Front dice roll, so it's still snow. So that means they do have the strategic initiative, the Soviets. So we'll switch back to the Soviets. And I am going to activate Stavka this time around. This is the second fortnight. And I'm going to try to let me just read up on these rules here and just be absolutely certain about the diplomatic events of Turkey joining the war on the side of the Axis. And it says number of undefended Soviet cities. Okay, so it doesn't have to be Axis controlled. It has to be I'm pretty sure undefended means unoccupied. To me, they sound like unoccupied. So in other words, none of these units can really be pulled out pretty much. So yeah, with Stavka, let's just try to get units in preparation for an attack. Let's try to do that. So I'm going to put 1 unit there. I mean, we could launch an unsupported attack. But yeah, so that's one strategic move I'm going to do. It's 1. And then any other strategic move. This group here can definitely be better organized. The Stalingrad group, I don't know what to call it. Definitely can be better organized. So that's 1 strategic move. Let's see, what's another one I would want to do? Put some distance between us and the Wehrmacht. So maybe I try something like 1, 2, 3. I think I'm going to go do that. 1, 2, 3. So that leaves me with what? That leaves me with 2 more strategic moves left. And there's really not so much more I would want to do. And we can defend this river line. And we could advance. I mean, we could launch an attack, but I don't think we have enough firepower. We're not in position. Maybe part of the problem with the Soviet strategy I have is that I'm underestimating their combat strength. That could very well be part of the problem. I'm just mismanaging the Red Army. That's a very real possibility. These positions here are super awkward for the Soviets. Right? We definitely could use another mech group there. That's where we need to really put our mech units here. It's right over here to withstand whatever German breakthrough happens over there. And I think the only other move I can think of, I did 3, 4. Fifth one will be pulling back to this HQ. I'm actually going to pull it back to Archangel. And then I got one more strategic move left for the Soviets. What to do? I really could use this cavalry unit. I had another one, right? Yeah. I mean, the only one I can really think of right now. I mean, I think we're pretty good. That's just maybe I could put another unit there, right there. How about that? How about them apples? Okay, that seems reasonable. That's it for the Soviets. So pretty uneventful turn, and then the Western Allied powers, you know, they don't have really many HQs right now, so we are going to hold off for any moves there. So that's it. That's the turn I have, folks. So this next turn is going to be pretty slow. It's going to be mud on the Eastern Front. Maybe we start picking up a little bit more speed with the Western Allied powers in April. But the question is, will North Africa fall? Despite us taking Tunisia, we took Tunisia so fast, we haven't achieved any success on the Egyptian front. So we still have to deal with Libya. We still have to deal with the Africa Corps. Right, and so until we dislodge the Africa Corps, I'm pretty sure that's priority number 1 for the Allies. And until that happens, our chances of defeating, the Axis anywhere else is going to be pretty hard. So yeah, the Western Allied powers need to be really strategic with what they do next. And likewise, so do the Soviets. But it's still not impossible. I think we can still have a very interesting 1943 year. But for now, it's the build-up phase. So that's what I have for this video. Thanks for tuning in. And I will see y'all in the next one. Peace out.